Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Vijana Vallabha Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Vijana Vallabha Sodhanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodhanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vana Chari Yamuna Tira Yamuna Tira Vana Chari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Shri Shri Radha Madhava Ki Jai Shri Shri Rukmini Dwarkadish Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Thai Go Premanande Shnubadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutade Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Shamini Tinamane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paschati Dasatani Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, third chapter, text 39. Ateha Dhanya Bhagavanta Itang Jad Vasudeve Akila Loka Nate Kurvanti Sarvatmakam Atma Bhavang Na Jatra Bhuya Parivarta Ugra Ate Hadanya Bhagavanta Ita Yad Vasudevi Kalalokanate Vasudevi Kilalokanate Kurvanti Sarvatmakam Atma Bhavan Nayatra Bhuya Parivarta Uga Parivarta Ugraha Ateha Dhanya Bhagavantamita Jad Vasudevi Kilo Lokanate Vasudevi Purvanti Sarvatmakam Atma Bhavan Nayatra Bhuya Parivarta Ugraha Ladies? Vasudeve Kilalokanate Word meanings. Ateha, thus, iha, in this world. Danyaha, successful. Bhagavantaha, perfectly cognizant. Itam, such. Yat, what? Vasudeve, unto the personality of Godhead. Akila, all embracing. Lokanate, unto the proprietor of all the universes. Kurvanti, inspires. Sarva Atmakam, 100%. Atma, spirit. Bhavam, ecstasy. Na, never. Yatra, wherein. Bhuyaha, again. Parivartaha, repetition. Ugraha, dreadful. Only by making such inquiries into this world can one be successful and perfectly cognizant. For such inquiries invoke the transcendental ecstatic love unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Unto the Personality of Godhead, who is the proprietor of all the universes and guaranteed 100% immunity from the dreadful repetition of birth and death. So what are the inquiries that are being referred to? Can anyone tell me? It's referring to such inquiries, and they're not in the last verse. So where are they? Who knows? What are the questions that are being referred to here? The questions from second chapter about what is the goal, what is the purpose of a person who's ready to die, what should he do? That question. Why am I here? Where am I going? Those questions. Is that it? Is that what he's referring to? Yeah. Okay, so earlier in the Bhagavatam, questions were asked. Maharshi Parikshit is about to die, so what should a man do when he's about to die? And questions about what is the best for human society, what is the best thing one can do, what is the best thing one can talk about, one can read, questions like that. Right? Good questions? Yes. Yeah. And now what do people say? What are the questions now? Where's money? Where's the iPhone 10? Is it out now? Where can I get it? Yeah. So read the purport. The inquiries of the sages headed by Shonaka are herewith praised by Sutta Goswami on the merit of their transcendental nature. As already concluded, only the devotees of the Lord can know Him to a considerable extent, and no one else can know Him at all, so the devotees are perfectly cognizant of all spiritual knowledge. The personality of Godhead is the last word in absolute truth. Impersonal Brahman and localized Paramatma, Supersoul, are included in the knowledge of the personality of Godhead. So one who knows the personality of Godhead can automatically know all about Him, His multipotencies and His expansions. So the devotees are congratulated as being all successful. A 100% devotee of the Lord is immune to the dreadful material miseries of repeated birth and death. So this purport is referring to the last verse, I believe. Only those who render unreserved, uninterrupted, favorable service unto the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, who carries the wheel of the chariot in his hand, can know the Creator of the universe in His full glory, power, and transcendence. So I would like to tell you a story about questions. When I was a student, I had one question. And the question was why? And why is the most important question? Because in order to know what to do, you should know why to do it. You agree? Generally, you're told what to do. And if you ask why, it kind of gets in the way. Just what to do? Do this. So I asked why. I was a why person. Okay, do this. Why? You know, like those annoying kids? Take your finger out of your mouth. Why? Because it's bad for you. Why? Why is it bad for you? You know, because they're germs. Why are there germs? You know, like that. So it's good to be a why person. So I was a why person. And as a student, being a why person was, it wasn't good for studies, because everything the teacher said, I would think, why do I have to know that? So I was kind of like bored in school, like, you know. And then the highlight was my philosophy professor. So I will tell you a story, which you think I'm making up, but it's 100% true. It happened in 1969, which would explain why it's true. So I had a philosophy professor, and the first day of class, there were 600 students. There was standing room only. Everyone wanted to take his class. And he only said a few things, which basically the essence of what he said was, I don't know anything, so you don't have to come to my class. You believe it? Berkeley, 1969? Yeah, you can believe it, right? So I was sitting in that class thinking, yeah, we got one honest professor in the whole university. The other ones won't admit it, that they don't know anything. And at that point, as a student, I was thinking, I really don't know what I want to do with my life, so if I just stay on college campus, I'll always get money from my father, and I won't have to work, so I'll just stay here. And you know, if you stay long enough, you become a professor, I guess, right? So I kind of, you know, I like to speculate and talk about life. So I thought, yeah, I'll probably become a philosophy professor, and then I could get paid to just talk about whatever, you know. And so then when he said that, I saw myself like 20 years later, you know, because he taught and he realized, and he asked all the why questions, he didn't have the answer. So he realized, I don't know anything. And I saw myself, like, that's the future of my life. I'm going to be that professor telling the students the same thing. You don't have to come to my class because I never answered the why question. So basically that's what's going on here. It's the why question. Like, why do anything? And if you don't have the why, then why? What's the point? Isn't it? Maybe somebody can help me with this, but I was told that Steve Jobs at the end of his life regretted having wasted it in running after money. Is that true? Can anyone verify that? Yeah, like I blew it basically, So, people might envy Steve Jobs, right, as a successful person, but he looked at it and said, yeah, that was kind of a waste, doing all that. So, yes. So the sages gathered, they asked their why questions, and then what's coming up here is very interesting, because it's talking about the questions you ask, the quality of the question. The quality of the question you ask provides the quality of the answer, right? Garbage in, garbage out. It's true for questions also. You ask useless questions, then you'll get useless answers, right? You ask good questions, you'll get good answers. So, one of the things that I realized by studying Bhagavad Gita and by studying Srimad Bhagavatam is that our intelligence in this age is becoming dumbed down. And it's not really useful to think too much, because it can be very depressing, because you actually see things as they are, right? So if you want to be happy, don't think too much, because you'll just get depressed. You'll say, why are things like this? Why are we destroying the earth? Why is the politics like this? Why are we being told this when it's like that? And so we're kind of being trained not to think so much, and therefore we don't ask the proper questions. And that's very unfortunate. So books like Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and so forth, they give the intelligence some clarity to ask the right questions. Do you agree? Like now, if you go out in the world, we're told the world is a certain way. Who are we told by? Well, we're told by our teachers, but I think most of the influence is coming from media. This is what the world is like. And then we see all the people we're supposed to be like. They're on the covers of magazines or inside magazines, right? These are the happy people, right? The ones with the whitest, straightest teeth, the biggest muscles, the thinnest waist, right? Isn't it? The big smiles, the nice cars, and so forth. And yeah, it's unfortunate. So my father, he wanted me to be like them. So he said, this is what you should do. A, B, C, and D. Of course, what did I say? Why? Actually, I was worse than that. I said, you have it all and you're not happy and you're asking me to do the same thing. So I'm not going to do that. That doesn't make any, why should I, then the why came in. Why should I do what you're doing if you're not happy? So that's the power of why. Like I'm told to do this. I'm told to follow this person. I'm told this is a standard. Why is it a standard? Where does it lead to? What's the whole point? So you can kind of evaluate your level of consciousness by the questions you ask. And the more penetrating, the better. And I don't know. I was just giving a class this morning about people pleasing, like how we're kind of being pushed to be like everyone else so that everyone else will accept us, because being accepted is so important, isn't it? If you're wearing the wrong clothes, people will think something's wrong with you, right? Yes? It's not, it's not exact style fashion. And so we want to be accepted. And that's a problem because most people are doing the wrong thing. And we want to be accepted by people who are doing the wrong thing, who will tend to misguide us. So there's a verse in the Bhagavatam, and it describes sometimes a devotee, when he reaches a very elevated stage of spirituality, he'll become ecstatic. It's a symptom of love of God. He becomes ecstatic. And sometimes in his ecstasy, he actually appears to the public like he's crazy. Like he's so happy, so ecstatic, it's just like they think that something's wrong with him. And it's said that he will dance and chant like a madman, not caring for others' opinions. He's like in his ecstasy, he doesn't care, So there is some, I think, merit to not caring what other people think, especially if what they think is not good for you, right? So spirituality requires some independent thinking, right? So the why question creates independent thinking. So why is a very good question. You agree? Yeah, why? Most people ask why when they're like 55. After they're, he asks whys all the time. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, most people ask it too late, if they even ask it at all. So this verse is describing, if you ask the right questions, you'll get the right answers. The wrong questions, you'll get the wrong answers. Garbage in, garbage out. And so sometimes with our spiritual master, someone would ask a question, and it wasn't a good question. It was like a curious question that didn't matter. Like whatever the answer was had no real effect on your life. It was like curiosity, like, what season do the birds fly from the north to the south? Like, what does that matter? It is no practical, it has nothing to do with what you're doing today. Oh, I was just curious. So sometimes people would ask these questions of my spiritual master, and he would say, why are you asking this question? He wouldn't answer it. It was just like, this question there's no purpose. And as soon as he'd say, why you're asking, you realize I just asked a stupid question. And eventually, I asked some stupid ones. Well, actually, I asked some real stupid ones. No, they were actually requests to do some stupid things. And you get sobered up by asking the wrong questions and getting, sometimes what he would do is very interesting. He wouldn't answer the question you asked, he'd answer the question you should have asked. And everybody's thinking, he didn't understand the question. No, he understood the question, it was the wrong question. So he just answered the question you should have asked. And in that way you understood, oh, I asked the wrong question. And you figured what the question was by what he answered, and then you understood, okay, I should have asked that question. So by a series of asking sometimes wrong questions, we understood that we should ask questions which are relevant to our spiritual advancement, and not just relevant to just curiosity or things that are totally impractical, that'll never happen. Yes. So that's the essence of this. So since we're talking about questions, why don't you ask some questions? Because I have a tendency to go too long, and if I don't stop now, we'll never end on time. I don't know if I stimulated any questions, but if you don't have any, I'll speak more. But yes. It's we are here, especially in Los Angeles, because in our last life we were attached to good weather, and so we took birth in Los Angeles. No, in our last life we were born in Alaska, and we're always thinking about Los Angeles. One sense, you can say we're here to ask that question. Yeah, really, rather than answer your question, we can say we're here to ask that question. Why we're here. And if you look around, it's pretty difficult not to ask one why question of why the world is the way it is. It's just like it doesn't make sense. Like, why isn't it perfect? For example, we were doing a course once, a bhakti course on bhakti. So I asked the students, I said, tell me what you don't like about the world. So we made a chart, all the things you don't like about it. So someone said, I don't like that animals are killed. Or I don't like that there's war. Or I don't like that there's hate or envy. So we'd make a long chart of all the things we don't like. I don't like wrinkles. I don't like gray hair. I don't like knees that hurt. Just go down the list of things you don't like. When I grew up here, smog was so bad on some days we actually couldn't go outside. It was so bad. You actually couldn't breathe. If you took a breath, you would cough. I don't like smog. Or I don't like people smoking and blowing their smoke in my face. Just, think of all the things you complain about. Think of all the things you complained about last month. Make a list. You'll realize there's probably like 108 things you complained about. So there's a lot of things we don't like about the world. So we made that list. And then I said, okay, we're going to make another list. What if you were hired by God to create a new world? Like the ideal world. If you could imagine it, it could be created. What would you do? So we made the list. Oh, the world is pretty much the opposite of the other list. Everyone would love one another. There'd be no peace. No wrinkles, no gray hair. We look like 16 forever, Nobody fights. Everyone loves one another. And so after we had those two charts, I just said, just look at these charts for a few minutes. And after a few minutes, we'll have a discussion. So everyone just looked at the two charts, like, this is the way the world is. This is the way I'd like it. This is the way the world is. This is the way I'd like it. Is there a world like the way I'd like it? Why does it have to be this way? Those are obvious questions you would ask, isn't it? Just by looking at those two charts. Why isn't the world the good chart? Why is it the bad chart? Does the good chart exist? If God's all-powerful, why did he create the bad chart? What's the reason? So when we say the purpose of life is to ask why, that's the why we should be asking. Why this chart, not this chart? You agree? And what our society is doing to us is it's dumbing us down so we don't ask why. We just ask, how do I get more? Isn't it? Not why do I need more? Do I need more? Are the people who have more happy? Just how do I get more? That's what we're asking. And assuming those who have more are happy. Right? So the purpose of life at least begins when you ask why this chart and not that chart. Like why? Why wrinkles? I'll tell you why you get wrinkles. There's a really good reason. Wrinkles and gray hair are very good for self-realization. So there is a man, and he made a deal with God. He said, give me a week's warning, a 2 weeks warning, so I can prepare for death. So in Bhagavad Gita, it says, whatever you think of when you die, that's where you go. So if you can prepare for death, then if you know, okay, I have 2 weeks, then I can really just prepare, just go into samadhi, chant, meditate, like that. So God says, okay, no problem. So the guy finally dies, there was no warning. He goes to heaven, now he's got issues with God, So God greets him, he goes, we got to talk. Like, yo, like, what's up? Like, you didn't tell me. He goes, no, I told you. I gave you so many warnings. You didn't give me any, no. Wrinkles, gray hair, bad knee. I gave you so many warnings that you were going to die, right? So the point is, there are so many warnings that life is temporary, that we're getting older and it's not going to last. And there is some human sense that doesn't feel right. Dying doesn't feel right to anybody. It's just something so weird about somebody being here and not being here the next day, isn't it? It's like it doesn't make any sense. And for us as individuals, the whole concept of not existing in the future, it's like it doesn't fit right. And so that's how we're supposed to think. We're supposed to ask, why do I feel weird about dying? And like, what's on the other side? Those are the questions. If you ask those questions, you'll be in the top like 0.000000001% of the universe. Because most people are like, hey, where's McDonald's? You know, isn't it? More or less, right? So that's where human life starts, in the why question. And I don't want to tell you the answer. You should find out. You should inquire. But Bhagavad Gita says, find someone who knows. Go to a spiritual master who's seen the truth. Ask him. Take guidance from him. Take guidance from someone who knows more than you, who can answer these why questions. And then you'll elevate your consciousness. Yeah. And I think it's really important to pop the bubbles of illusion, because social media and Madison Avenue are creating all kinds of illusion bubbles. And we need to be expert at popping them, and you pop them with knowledge, like books like Bhagavatam, the Gita. It pops that illusion bubble, because if there's an illusion, then you go after it, and then you find it, and it's like, oh, that wasn't it. I was just with some friends of friends, and they're actors here. And we were talking about the problem of being successful is that as long as you're not successful, you'll think you'll be happy when you're successful. But when you become successful and you're not happy, now what do? That's when depression enters. So, in a sense, better not be successful, because you'll always have the illusion that you'll be happy and you won't be so depressed. But when you actually get it, then it's like, oh, this didn't work. Now what do? Isn't it? So there's always an illusion, and knowledge pops that bubble. So it's not this, it's this. Understand, see through it. In the Bhagavatam here, in the next canto, it says, if you have material consciousness, you see things, but you don't see them. If you have spiritual consciousness, you see and you actually see. So two people looking at the same thing, one's seeing, one's not seeing, although we're seeing the same thing. That's what knowledge does. It gives you vision, so you can see what you're actually seeing, and you can see through the bubbles. Is that okay? So you'll have to find the answer to her question. Well, she'll give you the answer. She has the answer. We're here to become yoginis and save the world. But one thing I can tell you is that if you want to do anything to help anybody, you have to work on yourself first. You have to help yourself first, because you can't help people if you can't help yourself. You could only fake it for a while. Because when you tell somebody something, they're thinking, do you do that? Do you believe that? Oh yes, get up early in the morning, be vegetarian, meditate, do yoga. Do you do that? So if you really want to help somebody, you be an example. You elevate yourself spiritually, and then have a positive influence on others. That's the real way to help anybody. Right? So don't be a Hollywood yogini. You look like one, but inside you're not. You have to be inside and outside the same. Yes? Say that again? If I don't want to answer, maybe I'll answer. You never know. Ask your question. That was your question? Hare Krishna. Okay. As we said, sometimes by not answering, it's the best answer. Right? Yes, Archita. I'm actually going to China to do a yoga conference, amongst other things. 3-day yoga conference to talk about yamas and niyamas, the do's and the do-nots. My father used to tell me what not to do. I hated it. But when it comes to the Yoga Sutras, it's good. The do-nots are good, things to not do. Yes?
But you told us that you asked Prabhupada our spiritual master
Yeah.
some not so smart questions, but maybe you can share something that you asked that you were
Hare Krishna.
that Prabhupada thought was a good
Now I have to
question and
embarrass
gave you
myself in
gave you a
front of
nice
everyone.
answer.
Okay, so two not smart questions. Um, well, this was very, very interesting. This was the question I asked was 1970. So before I began practicing Krishna consciousness, I was very much into music, and what's the use of playing guitar if you can't become a rock and roll star? So that was like, just kind of normal desire for every young teenage boy who plays guitar and sings and has a band. So I thought, if we have a band and we become famous, the bands of the 60s and 70s were influencing how the younger generation was thinking. That was the greatest influence. There was no social media, it was the music. And it was the lyrics. Because in those days, the lyrics, it was not just "Baby, I love you." It was like, we're going to Vietnam, we're just dust in the wind and things like that. That was the generation that their music actually said something deep. That was deep. And historians have pointed that out. That was the last generation whose music actually said anything of value. I don't want to offend you younger people, but I didn't say that. I'm quoting someone, so you can shoot him if you want. So observing that the younger generation was being very much affected in their culture and their thinking and their values by the music, I thought, if we form a band and the music, we will teach Bhagavad Gita through the music, we'll become famous. Once you're famous, everything you say, people just say yes, right? So I wrote Prabhupada and said, what about this idea, Prabhupada? We'll start a band, become famous, sell out the concerts, we'll distribute 10,000 books. We'll just get everyone who comes to the concert, we'll give them a book, one night, 10,000 books. When we become really famous, one night, 50,000. How could I sell 50,000 books in a year? I could do it in one night, So I'm going on and on. So basically, Prabhupada didn't say it this way, but basically his letter was, dream on. It's not going to happen. And he was saying, basically, don't live in La La Land, Come down to earth. It's not going to happen. But he said something which was really, really insightful. So he said, don't try to become famous. Try to make Krishna famous. In other words, you want to be a musician, don't bring it to you, but do it as service so you can help people. That's what I was thinking. That's what was the interesting thing. Is I was thinking that's what I was doing. But Prabhupada saw, no, actually it was mixed. You actually wanted to be famous. And you were just thinking, okay, we'll do them both together. And the interesting thing was, I didn't realize it till I got the letter. And I went, oh yeah, as a teenager I wanted to be famous. And now Prabhupada's seeing through it. And so all he said was, yeah, great, you want to do music, do kirtan. Just chant in the temple and, but try to become a famous musician. Then the interesting thing about it, when I wrote it, I was 20 years old, right? So you just imagine a 20-year-old becoming a famous musician and surviving as a monk. Good luck, right? It wouldn't have happened. I have a friend who became a famous musician, and he told me stories after concerts in his hotel. Knock, knock. Hello, can you open the door? Can we talk? It's like, that's the life of a rock star. So in that letter, Prabhupada said, you will never become famous. That was a blessing. I said, and I realized in retrospect, at my age now, looking back, if I were 20 and a rock star, it would have been over. I would probably not be here talking to you right now. Probably be in, rehabilitation for the 6th time and on the 14th marriage, and, be a normal rock star. So the blessing he gave me is you'll never be famous, protected me. And now I do kirtan And I just came from Poland in the summer, and there's this huge festival, like 1,000,000 people, and we do kirtan, and we have a whole band, so I get to do it. But, no, I'll never become famous that way, but that's okay. I mean, famous amongst people who know me, but I'm protected, and I can still do my music. So, you want to hear the other stupid one? This one was even more stupid than that one. But one thing I can say is that our spiritual master was dealing with this all the time, because we were like 1920, and we still had LSD flowing through our blood, after we, because that was the culture, and we were very, very spaced out, and very out of balance, and we were. It was all of us were coming from the hippie culture, so it was all free sex and drugs. And then moving in a temple and going from free sex and drugs to no sex and celibacy. So it was like, it was really a struggle. So there's a tendency to just become fanatic, to protect yourself from, right, pendulum swings. So I was married, it was probably I was 24 or something, 23. I was married. I was married very young, like when I was 21 or 22. So maybe I was 23, I had a 1-year-old boy. And I was married, and I was fed up with it. I said, I want to be a renunciate, that. So I wrote Prabhupada and said, can I leave my wife and child, take sannyas? Sannyas is a vow of renunciation. You leave family. 23 with a 1-year-old child. Was that stupid? That was stupid on steroids. So, but we were out of balance. So I wrote Prabhupada, that was really a bad thing to write. But the point is, he knew we wanted to advance spiritually, so he was extremely tolerant. So he would, deal with me patiently. No, don't do that. Stay with your wife. This is not good. You can't disturb anybody, it'll cause her suffering. Try to understand, your situation externally is not what your spiritual life is based on. It's based on who you are internally. So he'd give us all these instructions, just basic stuff your grandmother should have told you when you were 8 years old. But, that didn't happen. My grandmother died when I was 3. My father was at work all day, I was out fooling around when I was 10 years old. Nobody told us these things. So he's very patiently. He was telling us all the stuff your grandmother and grandfather should have told you, because he knew we were sincere. So he was very patient. And I was stupid enough to ask it twice. I asked it again because I was so frustrated. And he was just like, he blew me off. He said, we'll talk about it if I see you, and if you don't want to talk about something, when I see you next, we'll talk about it, hoping that you'll forget. And he said, just be a good husband and a good father, and and after you do that, we'll talk about sannyas, which meant, like 30 years from now, we'll talk about it. So it was embarrassing, because it was just bothering him with things that he had better things to do than that. But he was patient with us and tolerant. And I think we learned that we shouldn't ask those things. So we have how much more time? 5 minutes or finished or what? Okay. Well, thank you everyone. It's nice seeing you all. Nice being here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.